Jury selection for the trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin is set to begin today. It was delayed yesterday by the state's effort to add an additional charge of third-degree murder. Chauvin currently faces second-degree murder and manslaughter charges for the death of George Floyd. Michael George is at the Minneapolis courthouse with more on that. So, Michael, what is the latest?
Well, Anne-Marie, good morning. In about 2 hours, both parties will be back in court, and the latest delay comes down to a fight over whether to add that additional murder charge for Derek Chauvin, and that could have a big impact on the case, and it also could impact the Floyd family's fight for justice by adding an additional delay.
Derek Chauvin's trial is off to a slow start.
Should we keep going while they consider the motion?
Jury selection was pushed back to today, while a separate court considers a third charge for the former Minneapolis police officer accused of killing George Floyd.
We have the murder three, which I think all agree I don't have jurisdiction to work with right now.
State prosecutors want to add third-degree murder, which could be easier to prove, but it could take weeks to get a decision.
Your Honor, we're not trying to delay this case. We want to try this case, but we want to try it right. And we only have the ability to try it once.
Chauvin is facing second-degree murder and manslaughter. The defense plans to argue Floyd died of a drug overdose rather than from the officer's knee on his neck.
We know that there were drugs in the squad car that contained Mr. Floyd's DNA.
The trial delay is an unwelcome twist for a city that's been at the center of a nationwide push for police reform since Floyd's death 10 months ago.
18 stories below the courtroom, protesters were on the streets demanding justice.
I don't know what this talk of trial of the century is. All y'all got to do is do the right thing.
Floyd's sister Bridget was in the courtroom yesterday.
I want you guys to continue to pray for our family because we need it.
Only one member of Floyd's and Chauvin's families are allowed inside due to coronavirus restrictions.
Now, every indication is that this will be a long trial. There are hundreds of names on the potential witness list, and even the jury selection is expected to take up to 3 weeks. Anne-Marie?
Okay, so before we even get to jury selection then, is there a timeline for this additional charge? Do we have any idea how long it will take for the court to make a decision on it?
Well, at this point, it's up to this appeals court, and the defense has suggested they may even take it to the state Supreme Court. So we really don't have a timeline on that, but either way, the judge has indicated he wants to start jury selection today, regardless of what happens at the appeals court.
Wow. Okay, so, you showed us in your story how the death of George Floyd sparked, protests around the world, but certainly there. What's the atmosphere like at the courthouse today, particularly with these delays? I'm wondering if they are expecting protests there.
Yeah, we've seen protests nearly every day leading up to the trial, peaceful protests by all accounts, and there are no protests scheduled for today, but it's certainly possible that we will see people start to gather here. This has a high interest here in Minneapolis, and certainly the court is prepared for protests. There are barricades, barbed wire fencing, and additional police outside.
Yeah, high interest and emotions running high. Michael, thank you very much. So we want to remind you that you can continue to follow this story on CBSN Minnesota. All you have to do is download the free CBS News app or head over to cbsnews.com/live. There you can find all of our CBSN local streams.